The Desert Lion transaction is, I believe, an excellent transaction both for Desert Lion and for Lepidico shareholders. It brings together Desert Lion's assets in Namibia, which are lepidolite deposits, a series of lepidolite deposits, and Lepidico's process technologies, which are designed for treating lithium mica and lithium phosphate minerals. So the Desert Lion deal is being undertaken by scheme of arrangement in Desert Lion. The timing for that is to close in probably mid-July. We're not spending any money on those assets until the deal closes, but once it closes, we're planning on drilling almost immediately. Ideally, we'll be having 2 rigs on site to infill and extend the existing mineral resources there, with the objective of getting them into measured and indicated categories. In addition to that, we'll then be integrating the Desert Lion assets into our feasibility study for our phase 1 plant project. So it's a question of once we get the resource, then working up an ore reserve estimate, and also the design for a mineral concentrator so we can be producing lepidolite concentrate in Namibia for export. We're still pursuing the chemical plant in Canada in the feasibility study. What we're doing following the transaction with Gulf Fluor is running a parallel trade-off study to evaluate building a chemical plant in Abu Dhabi. The rationale for this is Abu Dhabi, or Gulf Fluor in particular, is a sulfuric acid producer in Abu Dhabi. Our process uses considerable quantities of sulfuric acid, and it gives us an alternative for locating the plant and for having a long-term supply of acid to that plant. So ultimately, I envisage we'll have multiple plants around the world, and ideally a plant in both Abu Dhabi and in Sudbury. The question here is going to be which is going to be the location for our first plant. The drilling that I mentioned previously we'll be doing in Namibia. We will also be doing a program in Portugal to be bringing that resource into more measured indicated category, with the objective of then having an ore reserve. So by the latter part of this year, I would envisage that we will either have ore reserve estimates for the Namibian assets and also for Alvaroche in Portugal, or be very close to having those. The feasibility study will almost certainly continue into next year now, as we're integrating the opportunities in Abu Dhabi and Namibia. But what it will do is it will give us a much more robust study and also optionality with regard to a full-scale plant study, which will likely commence next year. So we're currently undertaking a capital raising. Part of the funds from that capital raising will be for further research and development work. Earlier this year, we announced a new process technology, Lomax, which is designed to produce lithium hydroxide. There are other process opportunities that we see, particularly with regard to cesium rubidium products and also possibly silica products as well, that we want to pursue. So we're going to continue to have a proactive R&D program with the objective of developing new process technologies and also enhancing our existing process technologies for lithium.